guys, in this video I'll be sharing what I will be using with my now 5th and 7th graders. Now before I start the video, my 5th graders curriculum for the most part look like a typical 5th graders curriculum. However, for my 7th grader, we do move at the pace that is necessary for her. Some medical reasons, but you know that's what homeschooling is. You get to cater for where your children is at. So if it is you, first time you're at my channel and you're looking for a more typical or a 7th grade curriculum where the child can take a little bit of a challenge, I would link my other 7th graders, my 7th grader video that is up on the channel already that my eldest use. All right, but in this video I will be sharing what my now 5th and 7th graders are using. So for Bible study, for the independent Bible study, they are going to continue reading the Psalm and Proverbs for the day. They've been doing that for over a year, and quite a bit of the Proverbs and stuff is sticking with them. But I'm also adding in this daily devotional. My eldest also used this Jesus Calling devotional. So they're going to read the devotion for the day together with the Psalm and Proverb. All right, so I really like this one. All right, so that's for the independent Bible study. And I've been working on trying to get them into the habit of planning their day for the last 3 years or so. I did switch the planner that I used last year and the year before that worked. Why, I don't know. And they prefer that one. But I bought this one. It's just a little bit different, but they prefer the other one. So next, if I'm linking anything, I'm going to link that other one. But we are going to use this since I have it already. So the way how we use this is that at the front of the planner, I have them, we write out, their subjects and how many minutes and all of that at the front of the planner. And then the rest of the planner, I have them put in things that they need to achieve for that day. It's not used like from cover to cover and thoroughly. My eldest, she's doing much better in using hers, and she fills it in and walks around with it. I'm still, ever so often I have to encourage my 5th and 7th graders still. But that's the point. I'm trying to get them into that habit. So I'm going to do the language block first, since that is our heaviest block. So for spelling, they're going to continue with the All About Spelling. They are now on level 5 that they started towards the end of last year. So they're going to continue with that. They no longer have a dedicated reading program because they are now finished with the All About Reading. They finished level 4 last year, both of them. So for reading, when the school year starts, the end of September, beginning of October, we go to the library. They get novels. They keep them for anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. We stop, going to the library just before summer, take the summer off, and then start all over again. So that's what they're going to be doing for reading, so to speak. All right, so for grammar, I shared in a short and in a video what my plan for their grammar instruction for the rest of their school years is going to look like. And I'll pin that above since it's explained in a short video. All right, so we did the level 3 first language lessons last year. Worked out really, really well. It did have some slow periods because some of it was going over a lot of things that they did already, but for the areas where they either didn't know, couldn't remember, or was struggling, it was very, very very useful. So we're going to be doing the level 4 now. If there was following so to speak, like a standard progression of grammar, not having any problems, this level 4 is not necessary. They can just do the first 3 levels of the first language lessons and then move on to something like fixed grammar. But for them, I am doing the level 4, and then we are going to resume fixed grammar starting with the level 3 God's Prayer next year. All right, so that's our plan for grammar. Happy with that. Even if it have slow areas, that's fine. All right, but we shouldn't have like slow areas, so to speak, at least not much in this level 4, with the exception of the review that we're going to do, that's going over some of the things that they did in level 3. All right, so I did decide to continue with cursive, just as an enrichment program. Now they're not going to be doing cursive every day, and there are days where it's harder than others to actually get the day started. And on those days, they're going to start with something like cursive and probably followed by their typing. So they're going to be doing cursive. So cursive is something I'm going to have this year, as opposed to having it as an everyday, scheduled subject. I'm going to have like an asterisk to it. At least I'm going to try this for a couple weeks. And if I'm seeing that it's a rough day, have them do a little bit of cursive and then continue with their other subjects. But anyway, so my 5th grader is going to do the Can Do Cursive book, and my 7th grader is going to do the Cursive and Beyond, the last book in this series. For reading comprehension, they're going to continue with Reading Detective by the Critical Thinking Company, similar to last year, where they finished the beginning book before moving on to the A1. This year, we have to finish the A1 book before moving on to the B1. And I am in no rush for them to finish this. They're actually going to finish it much sooner than the eldest sister did. So I'm fine with the pace that we're moving at. If it is, a child may or may not need a dedicated reading comprehension. But I do like the fact that all of the different concepts that is required to, be good at, to comprehend passages well, whether it's, finding clues in context, making inferences and whatever. I like how it's all concentrated in one book, and they just practice, that over and over. So they're going to continue with this series. For vocabulary, the middle school year, I decided to get them the Worldly Wise. Wish that we had started last school year with it, because they really like this Worldly Wise. All right. So that was a miss on my part. So they're just going to continue with the book that they had last year. I'm not going to get them another book just for grade's sake. It's just vocabulary. They're just building on their vocabulary. So my 5th grader is going to continue with the 4th grader book until she's finished. And then she will move on to the 5th grade book. Similarly, my 7th grade is going to finish the 6th grade book before moving on to the 7th grade. Hopefully, it will start to line up eventually, but that's what we are doing until that happens. I do want to do a little bit of this literature with them. I really had enjoyed doing this with my eldest, some of the stories. Now, as I'm speaking about this, even though my 7th grader and my 5th grader are going to be doing a lot of subjects together, when it comes to to literature and writing, there's one other thing. Literature and writing for sure. And geography, but I'll get to that when I speak about that. Even if I'm hoping that my 5th grader can keep up, but she has a lot more time, and I do need to spend a lot of time with my 7th grader to try to get her as prepared as we can to get through high school. So sometimes I may, use supplements and have my 5th grader move a little bit slower, but not to keep her back, if that makes sense. She is still going to be working, but at a pace that I think is applicable for her, where necessary, if I need to pull away and just work with just my 7th grader, I will have to do that like during the 7th grade and 8th grade year. And then, of course, because I'm hoping that she can do more stuff on her own by the time she gets to high school, right? She can work with, it's not that I have to do everything with her, but if it is she's struggling with something, I do have to sit down and make sure she understands the concept before she can then go off and do some of the stuff on her own. So, and that's just where we're at. And me understanding that, I know that 7th and 8th grade, I need to do a lot of work with her. All right. But anyway, but I'm hoping all of us, meaning, well, not all, my 7th and my 5th grader and I, we can enjoy some of these stories here together. We'll see how that goes. Right. So that is literature. And I don't intend to finish this entire Harcourt literature signatures book. All right. So for writing, I'm doing something similar than like last year, just the level 2. So we are going to be using classical quills 2 and building writing skills 2. All right. Now, The classical quills too, we're not going to be starting immediately. I still have about 2.5 lessons or so that we need to finish, and I do need to finish it before we move on to this. And when we get onto this book, I'm hoping that we can all move along together slowly. But as I said with writing, if it comes to it, I will get a supplement writing book for my fifth grader, and then I would just have to move slower with her using this and then continue with my seventh grader. So I am kind of seeing how that will go. This book, this Quills 2, is recommended for I think it's sixth grade, I can't, right, fifth and sixth grades, and then you have the Writing the Classical Way that is for 7th, 8th, or 9th, 10th graders. So this is for 5th and 6th grade, all right? But I'm using it with my 7th grader, all right? So my 5th grader, even if it is we don't finish all of this year, I feel comfortable that she'll be able to complete it next year, all right? So that is the first portion of writing, and we will be coupling that with building writing skills like we did last year. So Mondays and Fridays, they will be working through the building writing skills level 2. They really like this building writing skills. The classical quills they can do. You know, we have to really dig in there, but they can do it. And I like how it's doing it with this, I think helps us get through, because they're really enjoying this building writing skills. All right. So this will be Mondays and Fridays. This will be Tuesday, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Usually, the building writing skills, we would do a topic on Monday, and then they would have to turn in, you know, whatever activity on Friday. If they don't finish it, then it'll be the next, you know, Monday. And for their writing, a lot of times we would work on a topic Monday, Tuesday, and then they would start working on whatever activity, you know, maybe on a Thursday to be turned in next Tuesday. And that's how we kind of cycle through. It doesn't always work smoothly like that, but that is the plan. And of course, if we have to push forward, then building writing skills activities, they are due Monday or Friday, and classical writings between Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, this outlining book, we did the red one last year, and I am going to do it similar to last year. I'm going to do it after, in this book, I'm going to do it after they finish the narrative writing. So after they finish the narrative writing, they are going to complete this outlining book before they start argumentative and persuasive writing. That worked out well last year for these topics that are, you know, similar. And we're going to do the same thing this year. All right. Now, this book is now a little bit over $10, a little bit pricey because it's a really small book, but it really explains outlining in a way that they understand. At least my kids understand. So, you know, still kind of worth it. All right. This is just another supplement that they have been using for a couple of years. They still use it. I've shared it a few times on this channel, so I have this in there for them as well this year. All right, now for Spanish, this year they're going to continue with Duolingo, but I want them to do a little bit of writing, like a workbook. So we are going to use the Spanish Elementary. Now this is recommended for kindergarten to 5th grade, but that's okay. And after this, we are going to do the middle to high school workbook, Godspell. I want them to have a little bit more practice with actually trying to write the Spanish as opposed to just doing it in Duolingo. You know, trying to get them prepared, because this is the plan for high school as a second language, most likely, right? But I need them to get started practicing just a little bit more than I did with my eldest, all right? So I kind of have an idea, God's pay, if everything works out, what I want them to do for Spanish. My goal with all of them as a second language, is just to get them exposed to the language and to have them perform up to what's considered when they get to when they get to high school, what's considered a level 1 and a level 2 Spanish. So that's what we're going to be doing. That's the plan, and this is what we're going to be using this year for Spanish. So God's plan, when I come back and I have to do an update, I will share with you how that worked out. All right, so I will look at cover math. So math is going to be our main focus this year. Last year was writing. This year it's math. It's also the language arts, but more specifically, writing. And after that, actually it's typing, but that's a whole different subject. I do want them to focus on typing because of something that I want them to work on, in the near future. So they're going to be working on typing as well. But the main focus this year is their math. We struggled with math last year. Still like the math, you see, we're just having a bump in the road. So I am slowing down to try to prevent them from having, gaping holes as they progress through with their math. All right. So last year, my now 5th and 7th graders did the delta and epsilon respectively. They are going to finish off what they are doing in that. They have the test book to finish off, and then we are going to slowly move on to epsilon and zeta respectively. So my now 5th grader is going to be doing epsilon, and my 7th grader is going to move on to zeta. All right, and we are going to take our time and make sure that they understand as much of their math as possible. So as I said, this year the focus is math first, then language / writing, and then typing. All right, so for science is a little bit all over the place this year. I'm still using God's Design. I really like that series. I truly do. It looks like a lot because there's a few things that I do want to finish off / go over before we move on to the red series. So over the last 2 years, we moved really slowly with the first 2 books in the blue series because they were really enjoying it. So we took much longer than we needed to with Planet Earth, and just started water and weather and water last year, and just so happened they really enjoyed the weather book last year, so we really dug into that and started the universe book. So I'm hoping not that I don't want them to enjoy it, but I'm hoping that we're able to get through this book quickly. And there is a bit, we've done this series before, but I do want to go back to some of the human body this year. More so me reading through I have some things in there marked out. I want to read through it, probably cover a couple videos, a couple discussions. So I'm hoping to get 2 of these done within the first semester for science. And then I'm hoping to get started on the physical world series. All right. Now, my 5th grader made a special request for more science experiments this year. She's my science child, the only science child. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me this year because as they've gotten older, I have to admit I don't do as many experiments and hands-on as I used to when they were younger. But she made a special request to do more activities this year. So I definitely will have to work on that. So that is science. And the social studies block. Now, for social studies, for the last couple of years, we used a lot of workbooks, and I wanted to go a little bit different, at least for this first semester, right? So for history, we are going to use the Big Fat Workbook Notebook. Big Fat Work Notebook series, World History. We've been using this series for a while, so they both have theirs. I like for us to read through this, couple it with videos, and if we have to have discussion, if something doesn't align with what we believe in, so we're going to continue with the Big Fat Notebook series. However, before we cover the first humans, in other words, the first unit in this book, the first humans and prehistory, I actually want to go to this Osborne Encyclopedia and World History. We've actually owned this book for a long time. Back when we used to do Story of the World, I had purchased this book. I like the pictures and stuff, how they cover prehistoric history here. So we're gonna go through this first. So I have it marked off, this little section to the front here. Not sure if we're going to reference, much to the back here, because I don't want it to get overwhelming and for us to put more. I mean, we already have a heavy language block. But I do want us to go over the ancient history in here, and then we're going to continue using the Big Fat Notebook as our guide for world history. This worked out for American history. I'm going to use it for world history. So that is history. For economics from the social studies block, we are going to be using these workbooks. I used the Evermore books the last couple years, but I wanted to try something different this year. See if they enjoy it a little bit more. So they're going to use this Mark Twain Media Publishing Company book. It's recommended for 5th to 8th grade. So that's what they're going to do. We're just going to work through it slowly. It's a small book, but we're going to work through it slowly to make sure that they understand the concepts. Now, I do want to mention that we do own the Osborne series that covers money, politics, government, and that will kind of come in here. They've used it for quite a few years. They actually like that series, but I wanted to add a few new things so that they're not just going over the same thing over and over. Not because they don't enjoy it, but I don't want them to get bored of it. So I want to give them options. As I said, this year, I don't want to do as many workbooks within the social studies. So for government and geography, instead of, doing the worksheets, they're going to use an infographic for government, similar to the Osborne, but just a different one. It has a lot of like pictures, and it does have some words in between. In other words, it's not as, I wouldn't say it has as much information as the Osborne, but it gives them another option. And they do well with these kind of infographic books, all right? And geography, for the first semester, the second semester, I do have a workbook. I believe it's also by Mark Twain Publishing. I'll link it above. There's a 6th to 7th grade and then a 7th to 8th grade. They'll get started on that at the beginning of the second semester, but I don't have it as yet. I do want us to go through this DK, help your kids with geography. I wanted to come away from doing all of the maps and graphs, and because I don't know how, like, if it is they were really getting much out of it, to be quite honest. They've been doing those geography maps and stuff since they were in the first grade, different books, company for the green and white ones that we used to use. They've done the complete book of geography 3rd to 6th grade, the 180 days of geography. They've done quite a few of those. So this year we're going to go through this together for the first semester, probably put in a few videos, kind of make it, hopefully make it a little bit more fun. And then I'll have them practice, the maps and graphs, charts and stuff, resume next at the end of, not the end, sorry, at the beginning of the next semester. All right. So that kind of covers everything that we hope to complete for this school year outside of, their extracurricular activities. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you have a successful school year, and I will talk to you in another one. Bye.